Hey, what's up, everybody? True Boxing here. Thank you for coming back to get hit with the truth. So today we're doing the what's next on Errol Spence Jr., the now unified welterweight champion of the world. I mean, he was already unified, but now he's a 3-belt holder following maybe the best one of his career overall. His dominating 10th round TKO victory over Yordenis Ugas, the Manny Pacquiao beater. Heading into the fight, it was a big unification with the winner, like I said, to grab a hold of 3 of the 4 belts and possibly set up an undisputed title fight with undefeated WBO champion Terrence Crawford. We don't know what's going to happen, and that's why we're going to ask the question, what's next for Errol Spence following that victory? Well, the fast news is that everybody seems to think that now is the time to stage the Errol Spence versus Terrence Crawford fight. I really don't think, in terms of promotion and in terms of number 1 contenders getting in the way, mandatory fights, I don't think there should be an issue unless Jerron Boots Ennis and Custio Clayton, they fight on May 14th. The winner is going to be likely the IBF mandatory number 1 contender. Unless they, the IBF and Jerron Ennis push for the fight with Errol Spence, there shouldn't be a reason that undisputed can't happen. Now, I think Jerron Boots Ennis needs to allow that if he beats Custio Clayton like everybody thinks he's going to do. I think he needs to allow undisputed to happen because he's guaranteed to fight for a world title after that. Absolutely guaranteed. If they demand that right now, Boots Ennis would give up the belt and he'd have to do that, and I think it's a bigger potential fight. One, I don't think he's going to fight Errol Spence. Let me throw that out there right now. I don't think Boots Ennis is going to get Errol Spence either way. But if he waits for undisputed, stays busy, he'll get paid step-aside money, 1, and then he'll be fighting for a world title anyways when the division becomes most likely wide open at the beginning of next year. So, I don't think there's anything bad to waiting for undisputed. I think that's what he should do. I think it makes most sense for Jerron Ennis if he beats Custio Clayton, as most expect him to, on May 14th. And that allows Errol Spence to take on Terrence Crawford for the undisputed title. I don't think the WBA is going to enforce Elemontis Stanionis to challenge, even though he's the newly crowned WBA regular champion. I don't think they're going to force him to fight Errol Spence if Spence can fight for undisputed next. I don't think they'll do that. I think Stanionis would be willing to take step-aside money to allow that fight, so he could be upgraded later in the year or challenge the winner potentially. And the WBC doesn't have a mandatory due. So Errol Spence, in terms of mandatories, I believe those guys will step aside to allow a showdown with Terrence Crawford. All that comes next is they got to agree to the terms. Errol Spence Terrence Crawford was heard to be entertaining a 2-fight deal. But if he could get Errol Spence next, does he want to fight in the next couple months and then set up a fight towards the end of the year with Errol Spence? Or does he want to go straight to Errol Spence in maybe the fall? That area, late summer to the fall. We got to wait and see, but I definitely think this is probably the best chance of Spence and Crawford happening is next. So, they're really in hopefully a good position to set up that big time undisputed title fight. But we'll see. Let's run through the rest of the top 10 real quick and see what potentially could be options for Errol Spence if the Crawford fight doesn't come through. We already talked about Crawford. Errol Spence was 2 coming in. He's now number 1. Yordenis Ugas, a rematch. Makes no sense. He smashed on Ugas. Not going to happen. Danny Garcia, he's already dominated Danny Garcia. No sense in a rematch, not going to happen. Jerron Boots Ennis, I don't see Errol Spence fighting Boots Ennis. Even if the IBF enforced the fight, I think Errol Spence would give up the title, to fight somebody else while he waits around for Bud. I don't think he's fighting Boots next. Next up, undefeated Virgil Ortiz Jr. I don't think the fight happens just based on, I don't think the promotions come together for the fight. I think Errol Spence would look at it as, if I'm staying at welterweight, I'm going to fight guys in my promotion, the PBC, that are more makeable fights. And, you know, I just don't think Golden Boy and the PBC come to the table for this fight. Radzat Butayev was number 7. He lost the WBA regular belt to Stanionis. So we'll just have Stanionis right now talk about a fight with him. I don't believe that fight. I do believe if the Crawford undisputed title fight doesn't happen, the most likely next step for Spence would be Stanionis, because it would allow him to hold on to the WBA belt, and he'd hold on to the WBC belt, and he would just give up the IBF belt and not fight Jaron Boots Ennis next. And you know, while he's waiting around for a potential showdown with Crawford or moving up to 154 next year, I think Errol Spence might fight Stanionis, but I'm leaning towards the less likely. I think Errol Spence wants the big names, but this would clear up the WBA title, and we would have one true WBA champion after a fight with Stanionis. So I think there's a small chance, but I don't think it's going to happen. Butayev is not in the cards. Abel Ramos lost earlier this year, so he's out of it. Josecito Lopez lost to Cody Crowley. Cody Crowley, moving up the IBF rankings quick, could potentially set up a title fight, and I think there's a small chance that Spence fights Crowley, because Crowley dominated Josecito Lopez, but I'm leaning towards the less likely. I think Crowley needs one more big win before he gets Errol Spence, a guy like Errol Spence, to think about him. And then Conor Benn is sitting there, and I don't see a fight with Conor Benn happening. Conor Benn had a nice win recently, but I don't think Errol Spence going to entertain a fight with Conor Benn because of the promotions. That's, you know, Matchroom working with the PBC, and as of right now, I just don't see that. So right now at 147, I really think Errol Spence, I'm going to go out on a limb, and I think Errol Spence is going to get the Terrence Crawford fight. Outside of that, in terms of top 10, I'm going to be honest, I think Stanionis maybe, and Cody Crowley maybe, and a way outside chance of Jaron Boots Ennis. I really don't see anybody from 140 making sense for Errol Spence next. So Errol Spence should put all his eggs in one basket and go after the Crawford undisputed title fight. I hope that's what happens, and that's what I got. So that's I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, smash the like button, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel. I appreciate any and all support, and that's what I got. This is True Boxing. You've been hit with the truth.